Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today's Thursday, June 9th, 9 a.m. We are at the Morro Bay Tourism Bureau Board meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's about 1 minute till 9. Get a good start. For the record, I'd like to note that we have Maggie as a new board member. Thank you. Jane Beeman is here. Charlie Yates is here. Myself. Paul Van Bearden is a new board member as well, and Taylor Yates. Aaron Graves is not here today. So,
It's okay.
or Aaron Taylor Newton. Sorry, it's early. Okay, it's early. I know. I'm not awake. So we'll call that to order, and then I will open it up for public comment. Do we have anybody that wants to come up for public comment? Okay. Please state your name.
Hi, my name is Jane Beeman. I'm the arts writer for the Toulouse Press, and I want you to be aware that I'm doing a series of articles on arts and tourism, and one of the things that I'm doing it on is Cows on Parade. And I understand that the city of Morro Bay is sponsoring a cow. Is that true?
The TBID and the city is
Correct.
sponsoring a cow.
Okay, so I'm letting you know, and I will let TBID know also, that I need to know the location of the cow, who the artist is, and I need to get started on that because it's going to be a before and after so that we can do lead up for tourism. I'm working with Chuck Davidson on this and also the people at Cows on Parade. So that's all I have to let you know, and who's ever in charge of getting me the information, I do need it next week, which should be easy because you all have your ducks in order. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Any further public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and close public comment. And then I'll go to the closed session report. We met as a bureau today earlier at 9 a.m. for a special closed session. And what? Or 8:30. I told you guys I wasn't awake. I haven't finished my mate. I need more. And I just want to let the public know we have authorized an undisclosed amount to settle. It was a 2-1 vote with two recusing themselves from the vote. And I think that will do it for the closed session report.
Madam Chair, you have to indicate what it was actually about. So
I do have to give a background. Can I turn it over to Brent to give a...
You just have to indicate from the closed session agenda on what it was concerning.
It was a gender discrimination claim and settlement discussion. Is that sufficient? Resulting from a male customer filing a discrimination claim to 3 Morro Bay businesses, resulting from the Girlfriend Getaway Month Bureau promotion that the Bureau had ran. Okay. Thank you. Cover my booty. I'll now move on to approval of the minutes. Did not see
There were no minutes to approve. The last minutes are actually from the stakeholder meeting, so I'll be sending that out to the board for
Perfect.
a
I was going to
approval.
ask why we didn't have any. So I thought, but I missed the last meeting, so I thought maybe it's because I missed something. So I apologize. Okay, moving on. 2016 Budget Subcommittee Report, discussion and recommendations. So I will turn it over to Taylor Newton, who is the subcommittee chair.
Okay, so on Friday, June 3rd, the Budget Subcommittee met. That consisted of Jane Beeman, Aaron Graves, and Taylor Newton, as well as Brent Hagen. The committee reviewed the proposed severance and bonus numbers provided by the current executive director. Do you want me to give all these details? Okay. Executive Director Hagen proposed 1 month severance, which came out to $5,833.33, plus estimated bonus payout of Whoa, that's not going to sound good. Calculating out to a total of $13,992.49. This amount is being recommended by the committee as a payout to AMGEN before the end of the fiscal year. The committee reviewed the account balance at Founders Bank, Community Bank, and the anticipated revenue and expenses realized this fiscal year. There will be an estimated account balance of $94,591 at the end of the fiscal year. The discussion continued that $44,500 estimated carryover and $40,280 contingency was reflected in the new fiscal year's budget. The committee is recommending to electronically transfer the collective amount of $84,780 out of the current bank account and into the Tourism Business Improvement District, aka TBID, Enterprise Fund under the City of Morro Bay by June 30th, 2016. In addition to it, $20,000 was allocated out of the current fiscal year's budget to sponsor the Outdoor Writers Association of California Conference in October 2016. The committee also recommended to electronically transfer $20,000 into TBID Enterprise Fund and earmarking it for the purpose of sponsoring the 2016 conference. The committee is recommending the bank account remain active until July 29th, 2016, with the remaining balance to be electronically transferred into the contingency line item under the new TBID Enterprise Fund with the City of Morro Bay to be used specifically for marketing of Morro Bay. The closure of the account requires one signer to complete at Founders Community Bank and is recommended to be completed on July 29, 2016. It was recommended by the Budget Subcommittee that the assessment for May and June 2016, which will be realized in the new fiscal year, be allocated into the TBID Enterprise Fund and used specifically for marketing and sales of the destination of Morro Bay. The final discussion item relates to the existing physical and digital assets of the Morro Bay Tourism Bureau. It is the recommendation that all of these assets are gifted and or allocated to the new Morro Bay Tourism City Department for the purpose and use of tourism operations, marketing, and public relations of Morro Bay, California. Committee recommendations. Number 1, $13,992.49 severance and bonus payout to Executive Director Haugen prior to the end of the current fiscal year. Number 2, electronically transfer the collective amount of $84,780 from the current bank account into the Tourism Business Improvement District, TBID, Enterprise Fund under the City of Morro Bay by June 30th, 2016. Number 3, electronically transfer $20,000 from the current bank account to the TBID Enterprise Fund and earmarked for the purpose of sponsoring Outdoor Writers Association of California Conference in October 2016. Number 4, the bank account at Founders Community Bank remain active until July 29, 2016, with the remaining balance to be electronically transferred into the contingency line item under the new TBID Enterprise Fund with the City of Morro Bay to be used specifically for marketing of Morro Bay. Number 5, the closure of the bank account of Founders Community to be completed on July 29, 2016 by one signer on the account. Number 6, assessment for May and June 2016, which will be realized in the new fiscal year, be allocated into the TBID Enterprise Fund and used specifically for the marketing and sales of the destination of Morro Bay. Number 7, all physical and digital assets are gifted and or allocated to the new Morro Bay Tourism City Department for the purpose and use of tourism operations, marketing, and public relations of Morro Bay, California. Thank you.
Okay. So everybody should, so I know that the three of you had met, so I don't know if personally, I think we should just do it as one big subcommittee report and approval that way. But if the board sees otherwise, we can pick it all out. So I'll just kind of turn to the board and see if they want to look at these individually or go through it as just one big report.
I'd like to just use the subcommittee report. I'd like to just move on with the subcommittee report as one.
Perfect.
I
know we have
need
the
to
two
slice
new
and
members
dice
that are like, So I think it's just cleaner. I mean, we have a subcommittee for a reason. They've dived through all of these things. So I think that they've addressed it all. I personally have seen and I'm okay with everything as well. Go ahead, Brian.
The only addition to number 7 is that the physical and digital assets to be transferred by July 1st, 2016. That was the only thing that would need to be added to make sure that we have a date specified that all of that is transferred.
Okay. Can we add that to the subcommittee report, please?
I just added it to the subcommittee report.
Perfect. Okay. So I'd like to hear a motion to approve the subcommittee report so we can move that all forward.
I make a motion to approve the subcommittee report with the addition of the date of July 1st for the
Digital assets.
passing on of the digital assets to the city of Morro Bay.
Second.
I'd like to second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Okay, so motion carries. Subcommittee report moves forward. Thank you. Thank you, subcommittee members. Okay, now we're going to move forward with the dissolution process of the Morro Bay Tourism Bureau. I'm going to turn that over to Brent.
Thank you. As a part of the dissolution process, basically the board, you actually just authorized a part of what needed to be accomplished before the dissolution of the organization before the end of the fiscal year. So thank you for doing that. Secondly, there's a role that the Morro Bay Tourism Bureau needs to do as an official capacity in sending out written communications to all lodging stakeholders to let them know of dissolution, so that actually can be accomplished by staff prior to the end of the fiscal year. The third element is actually regarding the different forms for dissolution that needs to be done with the state of California, as well as on a state tax, and I provided some of that information for you. Prior to Sam Taylor's leaving the city, he did guarantee that the city of Morro Bay was going to assist in helping with more of the forms that needed to be done and filed with state and federal, et cetera. So as far as dissolution, all of the dissolution process probably will not happen by the end of June 30th, but I am very thankful to the city of Morro Bay in assistance in helping us file the proper forms that need to be done. But as far as the written communications, I am going to be connecting with both the chair and also the vice chair, because I feel it's necessary to have signatures for all of the different lodging properties so they understand what is actually happening with the nonprofit organization and the dissolution process. Also included within the budget subcommittee, we will be indicating where those assets are going to be going to, both the financial, also the digital and the physical assets. So that will also be clarified. I will go ahead and I will put a letter together, and I will have that run by both Michelle Honorud as well as Aaron Graves to review based off of your approval and moving forward with the written communications to all lodging stakeholders.
I think that sounds good. Do we need a motion for that?
I have a question. Within that letter, or do we have to make any type of statement that if you're getting the lodging people to sign it, is that what you're doing?
No, we have to officially notify all of the lodging stakeholders that the nonprofit is being dissolved.
Okay. Do we have to put a statement that the directors of the nonprofit are held harmless without any liability for anything?
I will double check with our legal counsel on that before that letter actually goes out.
Good point. Do we need a motion for this? Or are we just, okay, it was more of an information update. Okay. Okay, moving us along to board announcements. I guess I'll make a board announcement that we have 2 new members. And what I'd like to do is maybe just have you briefly describe your name and your businesses and how you got here. And then I'll turn it over for any additional board members. But Maggie, since you're to my right, I'll let you go. Ladies first.
Okay. Very good. My name is Maggie Jurin. My company is Beach and Bay Getaways, and we manage the Harborfront Suites and the Little Roche Suites, which are new condominiums that were built down on the Embarcadero in 2014, and pay into the T-bid, the hotelier T-bid. We also run a vacation rental management company. That's the other part of our business where we manage single-family homes that we rent out. So.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. Paul?
Paul Van Burden, longtime business owner in Morro Bay. Been here since 1968. Own and operate Dutchman Seafood House. My brother has the Hofbrau down on the waterfront, and I'm excited to be here, to be part of the process, see what happens. And I have to say my hat's off to T-Bid for stepping up a few years ago for the hoteliers to put a self-imposed tax to help the city move along, help tourism. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, members. One announcement I'll make also today is the last day of school. So I'll just remind everybody out there, since I'm the one that always has children, drive slow. We're going into summer. There's going to be a lot of kids running around. Of course, we have our tourism season, of course, getting hot and heavy too. But you got all your local kids out there too. Tonight, I know, is high school graduation. So congrats to all those graduating high school or graduating kindergarten or elementary school or junior high. So I just want to remind everybody that today is officially the last day of school. So you'll see all the Rugrats out starting tomorrow. So just heads up on that. And then I'll turn the board over for any other announcements. Maggie, do you have any board announcements you'd like to make?
No, but just to tag on to that, it's also Cal Poly graduation. So be aware that there's going to be partying out there.
Jane, any announcements? Charlie? Paul? Taylor? Okay. So we have adjourned this meeting at 9:15, and we will be back at 9:30 for the Tourism Bureau Business Improvement District meeting. Spit that out. Good morning. We are at the City of Morro Bay Tourism Business Improvement District Advisory Board meeting. Today is Thursday, June 9th. For the record, it is 9:31, and I will call this meeting to order. For the record, we have Maggie, who is a new member, so I'll introduce her. And then we have Jane, Charlie, myself. Paul is also a new board member, and Taylor. Aaron is not here. I didn't say last names to get me out of trouble. And Aaron Graves is not here today. So we do have a quorum. And we will go ahead and open it up for public comment. Seeing no public comment, I will go ahead and close public comment and go into welcoming the new advisory board members. So Margaret, I'll go ahead and let you just say a little bit about yourself and state your name. And
Yes, I'm Maggie Jurin, and I am the property manager for the Harborfront Suites and the La Roche Suites, which are down on the Embarcadero. And we also do vacation rental property management. My company is Beach and Bay Getaways. I'm very excited to participate on the board and have a say in the direction of our community, tourism dollars and where they go. So thank you for
Well,
giving me
welcome.
this opportunity.
And then I'll also turn it over to Paul Van Bearden.
Paul Van Bearden, owner and operator of Dutchman Seafood House, longtime business owner in Morro Bay. Been here since 1968. Grew up here. I'm excited to be on the board and see the process. And I want to thank again the hoteliers for helping, boost business in this town. And look forward to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, new members, for stepping up. We always are looking for new members to join our board. I will go ahead and also turn it over. We have another welcoming. Today is Jennifer Littles. She's our new director of tourism. Well, she'll be the tourism manager for the city of Morro Bay. Sorry, I'm getting out of the bureau mind. So Jennifer, I'll go ahead and turn it over if you can say a little bit about yourself and welcome here to your first day.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I have about 20 years experience in hotel and tourism industry, and I couldn't want to be anywhere else but Morro Bay, so this is absolutely the perfect location for me. And Brent has been absolutely key component to getting me turned over. So he and I were actually talking about going on the road to Sonny and Cher because we could sing duets now. We're getting very in sync with each other. So we've been touring hotels and meeting the different merchants, and it's been a really good education, and I'm looking forward to a few more weeks with him and picking his brain as much as I can. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it and welcome you to Morro Bay. And I know you've been on the run-in since you started this week, so I know it's been a long week. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Brent for the next item is the AMGEN Tour of California report. Everybody should have a report on AMGEN Tour, and I'll let Brent speak on that.
Thank you, Michelle. So I'm going to just kind of go through a little bit of the background as far as like for AMGEN, just for the for audience sake. Visit San Luis Obispo County approached the city of Morro Bay on becoming the Stage 4 start for the AMGEN Tour of California on Wednesday, May 18th. The city of Morro Bay received a $30,000 financial contribution from Visit San Luis Obispo County for expenses related to hosting the start. The city of Morro Bay approached the Morro Bay Tourism Bureau to help host up to 120 complimentary rooms, or a maximum of $16,000 for AMGEN staff. In addition to this financial assistance, the organization also assisted in the marketing and public relations aspect of the event, plus organized and hosted a progressive dinner the night before the race. In total, the organization paid approximately $9,800 in room sponsorship, $7,500 in marketing and public relations through Verdin Marketing, $3,500 for commercial production, which we can use that footage for other purposes, as well as the purpose of promoting Morro Bay and AMGEN, plus invested about approximately 150 hours, which calculated about $3,500 in staff time towards the event. Total contribution towards AMGEN was approximately $24,300 from the organization. We were very pleased that Aaron Young, who is our sales manager, worked very hard on securing rooms for AMGEN. You can actually see that in the AMGEN pickup report that was attached with the packet. But ultimately, the total number of rooms consumed as the result of the event, 97 staff-sponsored rooms paid by the Morro Bay Tourism Bureau, 285 rooms were in the initial room block that Aaron Young helped secure here in Morro Bay. 215 rooms were actually used, 82 rooms paid by Morro Bay Tourism Bureau, and the other 133 rooms were under a negotiated rate, so approximately $13,489. An additional 83 rooms, estimated rooms, resulted from the event for spectators and others, which estimated around $9,877. So total estimated room revenue resulting from the event was approximately $23,366, plus an additional $9,877. This does not include the rooms sponsored by Morro Bay Tourism Bureau. The organization, again, also organizes the AMGEN Taste of the Race Progressive Dinner. The event resulted in 60 paid tickets and 90 complimentary tickets for AMGEN staff, as well as giveaways. A total of 74 tickets were used, 60 paid, and redeemed at the 4 participating restaurants, including Brick House Barbecue, Dutchman Seafood House, thank you, Paul, and Giovanni's Fish Market, and Galley, and Grandma's Frozen Yogurt and Waffle Shop. Verdun worked with the AMGEN Tour of California and public relations firm Canvas Blue to obtain local coverage for Stage 4 race for May 18th. The goal was to increase public awareness prior to the event and drive attendance to the event in Morro Bay. The efforts resulted in 23 pieces of direct coverage between October 2015 and May 2016. I do need to give commendations to Verdun Marketing on assisting us with a lot of the public relations and marketing aspects for AMGEN. One of the biggest challenges I would say for staff was the really tight turnaround time that AMGEN gave to us. Normally we would have day of or a couple of days that we needed to try to get press releases done and sent out, or getting quotes from different individuals within the city of Morro Bay. The marketing aspect, we did have a little bit more of a timeline on that, but there were still a lot of tight turnaround when it came to some of the marketing aspects. From January 1st of 2016 through the week of the event, the AMGEN Tour of California created 2,027 page views on morrobay.org. 45% were viewing the event listing that we had on the website, and an additional 45% were viewing the online spectator guide that was organized and put together by the Morro Bay Tourism Bureau. The Morro Bay Chamber of Commerce was also a part of, very active with specifically to the event. They organized the vendors out at Coleman Park, and they conducted a follow-up survey with the overall business community to see if the event made an impact on their business. The results were that there wasn't a specific impact made resulting from hosting AMGEN, but a lot of the businesses were very happy to have Morro Bay be the start. It was great visibility. Visit San Luis Obispo County was an essential partner, and we do want to say a big thank you to Visit San Luis Obispo County for helping bring this event to Morro Bay, with the financial contributions also of $30,000 plus the promotional aspect. They were a phenomenal promotional partner, and they worked very closely with our team. The organization will be providing a report. Unfortunately, they've had some staff changes, and I do not have their report for the board today, but I will follow up via email, providing that to the board as well as city council and city staff. Staff recommendations is that I would love to see a final staff report, even including some feedback from the city of Morro Bay on what kind of their feedback and perhaps where some of the dollars were actually spent of the $30,000, so that way we can have one completed report from Visit San Luis Obispo County, get somewhat of a report from the Chamber of Commerce, combine it with our report to provide that to City Council and also city staff. I do, again, want to thank Aaron Young for all of the time that he dedicated in putting into helping secure rooms. As you can see by the AMGEN pickup report, he also did follow up with all of the properties that were involved, and so it is something that I would highly recommend for Morro Bay Tourism to do for the larger events and doing pickup reports to be able to provide back to you. There is an additional report from Verdun Marketing, and it gives you a little bit of a breakdown on the public relations and on where we were actually picked up as far as like some of the media. So I would highly recommend to take a look at that. But I am open to any questions, and Aaron, we might have you come up to the mic as well if it's anything related to rooms resulting from AMGEN.
Thank you, Brent. Does anybody have any questions for Brent? I'll just kind of go down the line. Maggie, do you have anything?
No.
Jane?
I really appreciate your report, and I also would like, it was $37,000, right? We got $30,000 from the county and $17,000 from T-Bid. Isn't that true?
It would be $30,000 from Visit San Luis Obispo County, and then our contribution was estimated at $23,000.
Okay, so then
300.
we're talking about $53,000. I would like an accounting of where that $53,000 went. I'd like to see that.
Jane, actually, you do have the accounting specifically from the Bureau and the staff report. It gives a breakdown. We would have to get the report as far as the 30,000 from the city.
That would be great. Thank you.
County.
Yeah, I'd like to
City.
see that. And then can we also discuss this event later after we talk about the staff report? Thanks.
Charlie, anything on the staff report? Brent, great staff report. Thank you. Very thorough with a lot of information. Paul?
Not at this time.
Taylor? Does anybody want to comment on AMGEN in general? Because I'm hearing that consensus, not on the actual staff report, but anything on AMGEN. Maggie, I'll start with you.
Well, I realize it's kind of intangible, but you do, to Jane's point, what you do see is a lot of money spent versus what hard dollars that you see coming back into the community. I mean, I think it was good for the local community. I went out to it and loved being there, and I saw lots of friends out there, and so it was good for us from a community standpoint. Financially, it doesn't look like we can justify the cost, but that's my comment.
Jane?
A couple of items. First of all, I think that AMGEN is a very incredible event. It is a globally honored event. I don't think that the city of Morro Bay treated that event with the honor, number one, it deserved, or with the hoopla that we could have built around the event. We had plenty of time to do that. We had no banners welcoming the riders. Just like now, it's mid-June and we have nothing that says, be here in July. People come into this town and they don't know what's going on. There was so much negative press about how you couldn't get on the roads, you won't be able to park, you won't be able to see anything, that many people avoided coming to Morro Bay. This is what I was told. It said that we heard more negative press than positive about going to the start line. I was surprised that our streets were not packed with people seeing the riders go by. I was told that locals that came to go to restaurants here to try to see the riders, they thought the riders were being here, okay, instead of in San Luis where they were housed, that many of the restaurants were closed. The town seemed somewhat shut down. And, and people were honestly disappointed that the riders weren't here, because that's why they were coming here. On the AMGEN website, no Morro Bay hotels were listed. They were listed in Santa Barbara. They were listed in other places. I think that we do not manage major events properly, and it does take lead time, and I think that we really need to reevaluate how we're spending our money if we can't handle the way we handle events is poor. The end. So we really do have to think about doing AMGEN again. We didn't even have a booth at the start line for tourism. We didn't have a booth at Pacific about Morro Bay. So, here's all these missed opportunities. Hats off to Aaron for selling the rooms, but, we need people that were here that stayed other places to know about our town. So that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you, Jane. Charlie?
I've got a long history with AMGEN and Tour California, being a past chair of the Finish in Cambria. And the understanding of AMGEN for me is more of a long-term marketing of a destination. The initial day I was there, I rode my bike in. I was with Aaron. I was with with Visit San Luis Obispo, which did have a booth at the start. I met with the mayor, and I was privileged to be in the VIP area. But after that, I left, and I was with the real crowd, and went and got a chance to see this amazing race. I saw the giant American flag that was flying. I saw the fireboat shooting water spouting across, Unfortunately, we didn't have a clear day, so we did not have the helicopter coverage that we were looking for. But for me, this event really is planting seeds for future visitors as well. Sure, we get a little bit of impact on the day and around the event, but it's really about global marketing of the areas that provide the start and finish. So if you went to MSNBC or went on the news and watched the beginning and the race and what they did and what they showed about Morro Bay, it was incredible. And this was broadcast all over the world. And so the money, sure, we put in about $24,000. Think about what it would cost to do a global 1-minute commercial on 20 TV stations across the world. It would cost you $1 million. So I understand the difficulty, and I understand that how hard it is to have an event like this happen and pull it together. And events are difficult. And we did, I think, a great job. But could we have done better? Yes, of course we could do better. But my financial view of this is more of a marketing arm for Morro Bay, not just hotels, but for our businesses, for the waterfront. And so in many ways, I've mixed emotions with it, but I understand the end result is long-term global marketing. That's how I see it.
Thank you, Charlie. I have no comment. Paul?
Yeah, I'm a big picture guy in my restaurant. As far as marketing, I always call it casting a wide net, and some things stick, some things don't. Brett approached me about opening up early and participating. I was very excited about it. I think some of the roadblocks, there on the tour, of course, prevented people from really making that effort to come down to the waterfront. And I think that's one of the challenges. I think that needs to be improved. I did see a lot of, local bicyclists coming and trying to participate. But I would say, for the most part, looking down the waterfront, waiting for them to come, it was like a ghost town. And again, but I want to reiterate, I'm a big picture guy. I can see that maybe improving in the future. But I do think we have some challenges that we have to address, to make this a successful event if we want to do it next year. And again, that's going to be a process. Thanks.
Taylor?
Yeah, I for the organization I work for, I've worked the last 2 years at finishes. I worked the Cambria finish, and I worked the Avila Beach finish, so I'm very experienced. I was, just to be honest, we were asked to work the organization I work for was asked to work the start of this event, but their planning time on the part of the city was not fast enough for the business model that I run. For example, we need at least a month's notice before we can give you a design, and they weren't able to complete that time scale, so we were contracted out for somebody else. And that data shows me that the city is spread thin. I mean, they're working their butts off, is my feeling, and when you put so much on them to complete so much, things are going to fall through the cracks, such as zero waste, which is what I do for the organization I work for. That being said, I think that for me, I love the AMGEN tour, regardless of how much money we may or may have not made off of it. I think that the global marketing is invaluable. But I do think it's a great example of how hospitality takes a lot of time, and that's why hoteliers know about hospitality. And when you ask city staff to be hoteliers, that's not what they are. That's what I have to say on that.
Good point. I think you make a good point. I'm just going to say I was disappointed in the organization of AMGEN, and I'm not going to badmouth AMGEN, but it seemed very disorganized on AMGEN's part as one of the hoteliers. We had a lot of no-shows, and we had a lot of trouble on that end, which was not the city or the Bureau's fault. This was out on AMGEN. So I'm not going to badmouth too much, but I was disappointed as a hotelier. I expect rooming lists and times and things like that, and we really kept trying to get that information, and we kept getting kind of ran around. And so that was a little frustrating on our part. That night we waited until midnight waiting for them to show and they never showed. It would have been nice to just know they weren't coming. We even paid people overtime thinking they were coming. So I think those things are disappointing, and I think those things have to be addressed in the long run for future if AMGEN comes. I loved your idea, Brent, of maybe putting some stuff together while it's fresh in our minds, because next year we'll forget, because we all forget what happens next year. We need to sit down and do and I unfortunately was home that week. I didn't feel good. I wasn't out here. I don't know how busy. I did hear the town was somewhat quiet. So that was disappointing to hear too. But I think overall, I think the Bureau did a really good job. I think the city did what they could. I think you make a point, Taylor, that they're spread thin. They're not hoteliers. This shouldn't be, it needs to be a little bit more, we need to connect the dots a little better sometimes. But I've been saying that for a long time. So maybe we'll connect the dots sometime. It's always a work in progress. So those are my comments. From a hotelier standpoint, it was disappointing with some of the things we got on AMGEN's side. Brent?
One of the, I definitely want to have a positive spin on this too, and just, for informational purposes. A start is different than a finish. They can't guarantee how many people will actually be there for a start or for a finish, but they did estimate between 1,500 to 2,000 people total for a start. And we did have that. We had that here in Morro Bay. It's a very short, by the time that the event begins, 10 minutes they're already on, Highway 1. It was good exposure. It was a great way to come together with Visit San Luis Obispo County. It was also a great way to come together with the city on what we could actually pull off. It was a short period of time in trying to pull off a large event like this. By the time that everything was finalized with AEG, the city was trying to work their hardest on making sure things were done. Jane, I did want to address a couple of the points that you had talked about. As far as like the businesses, both Erica, who is with the Chamber of Commerce, as well as myself, we did actually go out to businesses. We saw businesses face-to-face prior to talking about AMGEN, the expectations of AMGEN, how many people were going to be going out for AMGEN. The Morro Bay Tourism Bureau also sent out electronic communications to all of the contacts that we have in our email list, talking about the expectations of how many spectators, staff total were going to be, just the basic lineup, etc. So I think sometimes when we're looking at a global event like this, the expectations might have been a little bit higher with a lot of individuals, but I think as far as like the logistical team with AMGEN, they were fantastic. They knew when they were coming in, setting up, when the roads needed to be closed off, etc. We had a lot of really great meetings concerning the logistics. Jane, I also wanted to address your point as far as like not having a booth out at the AMGEN site. It was something that was decided on because of the being a start versus being a finish, that there wasn't a lot of space out there for us to have in the VIP tent. And so we could have put up a booth, we could have had materials, but a lot of times the spectators and people are there wanting to spend time with the riders and not so much gathering the information. So I know that I also spoke with Erica. Erica we were talking about having a visitor kiosk, but just again, knowing how many people were going to be expected for the event. A lot of the marketing was going to be more on the digital standpoint, also in social media as well, to bring visibility to Morro Bay. So it was really about staffing, and it was also about logistics when it came to what was happening out at Morro Rock. So we didn't really have the ability. We could have had like a booth set up, our display, but not materials out there. There are some regulations involved with AMGEN that we had to comply to as far as like being a host city. So ultimately, I thought the energy was very positive for the event. Would I love to see AMGEN come back again? I think that we could do it, and yes, there's always room to improve, as Charlie had stated. We've learned a lot from this, but at the same time, within the staff report, I did make a recommendation at a marketing committee meeting with Visit San Luis Obispo County that we put together a handbook for anybody who's looking at sponsoring AMGEN. There are so many communities that have already sponsored AMGEN in the past that we need to learn from each other instead of just trying to reinvent the wheel every single time. I do commend Pismo Beach. They did extend an olive branch to me. Unfortunately, we already pretty much had all of the plans done, but Gordon, who is my counterpart in Pismo, as well as John Sorgenfrey with TJA, had talked about, hey, if you guys want some recommendations or suggestions, etc., we're here to help. So I think having a handbook and talking about what is expected when you are hosting AMGEN, either a start or a finish, is going to be very valuable to the county. I know the county is looking at perhaps having discussions with AEG about having the county be a location that hasn't been decided 100% yet with Visit San Luis Obispo County. But I think collectively there's a lot of knowledge and there's a lot of experience that we could all pull together, and whoever is going to be hosting the next time for AMGEN in the county will have even a bigger success, not just for their own community, but also for the other communities throughout the county.
Thank you, Brent. Yeah.
The only other one thing, and maybe you can send this back to Erica, was when the news people came around to interview businesses that were hopefully involved in AMGEN. One of the things that the news person said to me was that she was so disappointed that there were so many businesses in the town of Morro Bay that were negative, that she had a very difficult time finding businesses that were positive towards AMGEN. And that's right out there. And so, when I was interviewed, I talked about, by the way, how this is good for us globally, and it's not for today, it's for tomorrow, for Morro Bay exposure. But you need to hear this because the businesses, it's like we're in separate, worlds. So we need maybe to get together on tourism a little bit. So just to let you know about that.
It only takes one person to be a cheerleader, but a lot of times you have to try to dispel that negativity, because when you look at it, you can either look at the glass half empty or you can look at the glass half full. And to me, I kind of heard a combination of both. There were a lot of people and a lot of businesses that were very excited about having AMGEN here. And then we also had the other side where the roads are going to be closed. Well, the roads are only going to be closed for a very short period of time, but look at what is here. It's a global event that has come to Morro Bay and was at Morro Rock. And so we need to celebrate the positive side of having events versus the negative side of having events.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, which is always a challenge. So thank you for a great report, and we'll look forward to the county report that coming down the line. And I really think, Brent, before you leave, it'd be great for us to work on that handbook or try to work with the county on something. Like you said, we all are one big county and need to work together and just make every year learn more and more and make this more successful from year to year, because there's always ways to improve. So great report. Now moving on to discussion and approval of the Tourism Bureau budget report. In our Tourism Bureau meeting earlier today, there was a report that line itemed several items. We would like to file this for record here with the Tourism Bureau Improvement District, and it had to do with the bank accounts, the executive director's compensation, and the allocation of the Morro Bay Tourism Bureau funds and our digital assets as well. So for the record, should I read this report? Or everybody has the report in front of them, and then we will need to have a motion to approve this to move it forward, correct? Yes. So I don't know if we need to relive what we lived 30 minutes ago, but I'd love to see a motion then to adopt the report that we approved at the Bureau meeting for the BID meeting.
I make a motion to approve the Tourism Bureau budget report and adopt that through the TBID in full.
I second.
Okay, any further discussion? None. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, motion carries. And Brooke, we have the report for file that Brent can get you. Okay, now moving on to discussion and approval of the 2016-2017 grant programs. Everybody should have received a staff report with a little bit of history and going into the grant process for this next year. Every year it seems to get tweaked a little bit depending on where our funding is and what's going on. So hopefully everybody's had a chance to read through that grant program report. And if anybody has any questions, or I can turn it over to Brent. I think we all can read a little bit, but I know the public will need a little synopsis.
It's really exciting because when you look at the investment that happens through the TBID assessment as well as the city contribution. To give a little bit of background, in the last couple of years, the city has actually provided dollars out of the general fund to be able to support events here in Morro Bay at a total of $40,000 for the last couple of fiscal years. The Morro Bay Tourism Bureau put together a grant program to be able to distribute those funds to different events, which has definitely helped impact sales tax businesses as well as lodging here. It's like I said, it's a very exciting thing for me that when we're looking at this coming year's budget, that we have some allocation not only from the city was contributing $60,000, and the advisory board had made a recommendation that $20,000 go into a advertising and promotion for businesses, and then $40,000 went for event support. They also added an additional $25,000 for event support. So right now in the proposed budget that's in front of City Council, because it's involved with the whole city budget, $65,000 is actually allocated towards event support through a grant program, and $20,000 is for an advertising and promotional grant program. So in front of you, there's the history of what we have within the staff report, but I think a good majority of the time really needs to be dedicated in reviewing the criteria and the application process. Staff is recommending that as soon as council approves of the overall city budget, that these applications become available for the business community as well as event organizers. So one of the first applications that we have is for event support. And if you have the applications in front of you, I want to talk a little bit about some of the changes from last year to this year. The first one you're going to be looking at is the 2016-17 Event Grants Funding Request Application, and it's for the program that's up to $5,000. Essentially, the information has not really specifically changed, but the events must happen in between the dates of August 1st of 2016 through June 30th of, it should be 17, sorry about that. So it should reflect our next fiscal year. Again, we kept some of the items in here that it must be an event within the city limits of Morro Bay, California, since it's both city funds as well as TBID assessment funds. We're going to circle back as far as like the deadline date for applications. We can definitely move the application deadline date of July 15th of 2016. But I wanted to highlight on page 3, grant funding request. How this has actually changed from last year's grant application process. What I actually ended up putting together for the advisory board today are some of the criteria and how events would be able to establish and how much event funding that they would receive or how much that they could actually request. So we have it based on the number of days, and there are dollar amounts associated with that. The number of attendees, there are also dollar amounts associated with that. The number of Morro Bay hotel and motel rooms, there are also numbers associated with that as well. Something new that we've included too is how the events are attracting groups, whether it's buses and or if it's a competition where we're seeing the number of teams. We have a reservation widget currently, which is great to get on other event websites, and whether or not that they're charging a gate fee. or if there's an opportunity for a consignment ticket program to happen with hotels or actually the lodging community here in Morro Bay, as well as outreach. So I really want for this advisory board to really have a lot of conversations based off of the criteria, one, the dollar amounts, number two, and then also application deadline would be number three. And I think it would be wise for us to go through each application kind of one by one. So I'm going to turn it back to the board because I really would like to see feedback based off of the criteria and how events would actually come up with the dollar amount that they would be requesting through the new city tourism department.
Okay, so I have a question too, and then we'll kind of go through this. Everybody's got the applications. So when these applications come, I know in the past we've had like a subcommittee that's reviewed those applications.
And that still is in that, Michelle, that an event grants task force would actually be created to review all the applications. I should say that maybe we should also cover the other event grant applications. So the first one that you're reviewing is where an event would receive the dollars without a match. The second one is actually at a higher dollar amount at $10,000, where it would be matching funds. Essentially, a little bit of the difference here is that instead of the event organizer going through and checking how the dollar amounts would actually come up, I've actually changed it to be more of a questionnaire, so that way the event grants task force could look at and evaluate the specific event that they're looking for matching funds with a little bit more detail specific to the event and what they're actually projecting for the event.
Okay, and thank you. I wanted clarification of that. So if I'm putting on a hat of an event person, and I'm an event, and I have an event, am I going to know what one of these three applications? Or
Yes.
would the task force be the one that's reviewing that?
The task force would be reviewing it, making recommendations to the advisory board.
Because I can just see it from an event standpoint being like, I just want to apply for money. What do I? So that's where I'm just putting on an event hat. Okay. Okay, so I don't know exactly how we want to go about this. We're looking at applications online individually. Yes.
So in the on the first one, and it kind of goes to it in the second one as well, where you're asking them to identify. Let me get to it. Sorry, number of days. That's clear. Number of attendees.
Correct.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where they can say, I'm trying to get more money. Sorry. And trying to get more money to say, I think I'm going to be booking 100 hotel rooms. And then when reality comes, they don't. How would validation of that happen?
We actually have some history with a lot of the annual events here in Morro Bay, and so ultimately we can actually look back at previous history. That is a part of the application to Maggie, and I know that you're actually new to this whole process, but it's definitely a valid question to say. But they do have to provide some history of their event.
Okay.
If it's a completely new event, it's a little bit difficult to do that. So we're looking at more projections with that. But most of the applications that we receive and funding that we receive are events that have happened in Morro Bay for kind of pretty much year after year.
Okay.
So,
and that kind of answers my second question, which was, how do potential applicants find out about this? But they're already well on top. They're all over this, I would imagine.
What we typically do, and once the applications become, when City Council approves of the overall city budget, that's when, and you guys approve of this process and criteria, we will actually do a reach out and send out these applications to the event organizers. What's actually very helpful too, that Aaron Young has been working with some event organizers that are looking at bringing some new events to Morro Bay. So there's an opportunity for him to be able to bring applications to them as well, and saying that there's funding available. Obviously, there's a little fluidity to the overall budget for this next fiscal year. And it can, the advisory board can also make recommendations if there's a new event that happens to come online after the application deadline. If there's funding available, there's also opportunities to be able to help sponsor and help fund maybe perhaps new events that are coming online that would be good for Morro Bay.
Great. Thank you.
Great question. So I'll just go around and see. Does anybody have any questions, Jane?
Is there a couple of things? As you know, I would like to see events be handled a little bit better for lots of reasons. But first of all, is there a line item anywhere where it says for the applicant that, yes, I have received funds in the past? And is
No,
there?
and we can definitely add
that's
that.
right. We need to add that, and then then they need to attach a report of how much funds were granted and how they were used. I've honestly never been with an organization that gives money and doesn't require a report of use back. The other thing is...
Jane, we actually do. They are
Okay, I haven't seen
required
it.
to do a report
Okay,
coming
so
back.
then it would be easy for them to attach it. The second thing is, in other organizations I have worked with where they do have events or even where they promote their own events, they have a timeline where it says 30 days before your event you have to do this, 60 days this, which has to do with marketing, getting, what we have to do, so and so. Is anything like that prepared so that, and I'll give you a great example, is that even though we didn't fund it, that Pirates Parade, nobody seemed to know about it.
That's because they don't want it publicized because so many people come and get free food. So you need to be careful on that one. I've been told they don't want a bunch of tourists there.
Well, they have, my point is, they have to get a permit for something like that. We need somebody to be coordinating these permits and events because there were posters, and I had guests in my hotels asking me what the event was. And I didn't know. So it's like it's like everything's random.
Jane, I appreciate your comments, but I don't know if it's really in our purview to try to. We can provide tools and resources, but I think it has to be shown as being tools and resources.
That's
can't
great.
Really dictate
All I'm asking for is the tools and resources for a successful event to be attached to the application list, so that, because you have on here that there's a deadline of July 15th and that the dates of the events have to be for August 1st through June 30th. Well, if somebody's applying for a grant in July and they're going to do it at the end of August, how is that lead time for proper promotion?
That's really up to the event organizer.
Okay.
This is about the distribution of funds to help support events.
Okay.
Which, just real quick while it's fresh in my mind, and this is I think we need to differentiate with events. These are events that we're funding, so I think we can put timelines or we can put requests on stuff like that. But on this pirate thing you're talking about, we can't compare apples to oranges. Like he's saying, we can't control what people do with their events. As a hotelier, I called to ask them, because we do a calendar of events, and we were specifically told to not put that on our calendar of events, that they didn't want it publicized. So we can't control what people do with their events. If we're funding them in any way, I think we can put guidelines and timelines and all of that, but we need to be careful that there's two separate issues at hand. I just don't want us to get confused with that.
Well,
we never put money towards that event. That wasn't anything that was ever sponsored by us, so we really can't.
No, that's
tell much
fine.
to them.
But if we're going to be funding events and we want events that we're giving money to be successful, they need X amount of time for lead time to get the proper marketing. Hence, the calendar of make your date there and then your event, you have to apply by July 15th and your event has to be August 1st to some. Maybe we need to revisit those dates because it doesn't give anybody lead time for marketing. That's all I'm saying. And if I'm going to fund an event, I want it to be successful and people to know about it, to bring people here to stay overnight.
The challenge is, Jane, that the budget is not approved by the city. So no funds can be distributed. The budget can be changed by city council. So ultimately, we do have to wait until until the budget is actually approved. And secondly, the funds have to be used within the fiscal year. And so the fiscal year goes until June 30th. So it's ultimately,
I understand what you're saying, but having the money and distributing it is one thing. Proper marketing is something else. So my point is, if let's say they approve $30,000, and we know we have $30,000, if we decide to match X amount, we have X amount. If the deadline is July 15th, okay, or let's say you push it up to August 15th because you won't know about the budget till the end of June, I surmise, I don't know. But the thing is, then you say, well, then maybe we ought to support events that start in October, because that'll give you X amount of lead time. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I think we would skip out on some events, but okay, point taken. Charlie, any comments? Or anything on this, or questions, I should say, was the questions.
I just think that it's really important that the events that we have funded in the past that the task force is actually reviewing the reports that are coming back and making sure that the events that we do fund, and that if we're going to continue to fund, are viable and make sense to us. I understand the short lead on your comments, Jane. I think that it's important that this process take place so that we can make sure that we have the grant applications approved, so that the people that are doing these events will have the proper time to do it. So.
And one other thing, too, it's like we didn't have the opportunity to go through this process earlier in this fiscal year. So perhaps it could be a recommendation from staff is that you have the applications available, perhaps maybe in January or February, but funding obviously would not be available until July 1st. So it's really a matter of having a little bit more lead time, but unfortunately we didn't have that opportunity this year. So there are a lot of events asking about funding. So that's why it's on the agenda for this month for you guys to review. That way we can actually go through the application process to make sure that it is approved and it's done. So that way once July 1st hits, or whenever, I know council is going to be approving, John, budget is it the 24th would be the final? So Tuesday would be the final. So once they actually approve the final budget, then we can release these applications to different events. So it'll give a little bit more lead time for them to be able to fill that out.
Paul, any questions, comments?
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Jane. It's really short. I mean, my gosh. I mean, if I was trying to run an event and here's the application, it's kind of an RFP in some respects, isn't it? Do we know if anybody's is applying for this yet, or have we put anything out there?
We can't do applications until you guys review and approve of this process.
Thanks. Yeah, but again, I think it is going to be a challenge. I like the idea of the grant. I mean, again, it would be. Anybody in Morro Bay as a business to try to bring any kind of events that's going to help, market us. I think it's very important. So, I think it's a good idea, but I think there's some challenges ahead, definitely.
Taylor?
Yes, I have comments here. I think that you did a great job on how you broke it down to the 3 different categories. I really liked that. I thought that was smart and helps the applicant in envisioning where they are, like, am I applying for that or am I applying for that? What works best for them? I thought that was smart. I thought your applications were thorough. I was pleased. What it left me at, though, is, my time is so limited. And if we're going to be a tourist destination, events are part of that. I mean, how can you not have events at a tourist destination that doesn't work out? How do you not have hotels at a tourist destination? That's ridiculous. That being said, with limited time, going back to the AMGEN, I mean, our own city staff has limited time. Our advisory boards have limited time. Our city council members have limited time. And with turnover in staff, when you have staff turnover, that decreases your time. Having someone who specializes in events to like right now, what I would love is I'd love to have like a person a contractor maybe, that spent like, I don't know, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours reviewing this, give me their commentary from their event specialization. How do these applications from their viewpoint, like that person being somewhere available to us is, I keep bringing this up, and maybe each time I bring it up, I'll get more adamant about it. But if we're going to have events, let's get an event coordinator somewhere in our wheelhouse. Thanks.
Just to address that, Taylor, is that on the event grants task force, we did actually have a professional event planner that did review all of the applications this last cycle. If board is actually concerned as far as like the timeline, we could also have 2 grant cycles. We could have where events that would be from July 1st to whatever month that you guys would decide, maybe through December, that would be 1 grant cycle, and then open up a 2nd grant cycle. That could be possible to allow. Getting back to the event organizer, the professional event organizer, unfortunately, we couldn't have that person be on the event grants task force, but we could also reach out to other professional event planners because that person's now involved with some Morro Bay events. So we always try to find people who don't have a connection specifically to the events here in Morro Bay, so that way there's some objectivity to that. But it was really important for us that when we had the event grants task force, that we had a professional event planner on the task force, so that way we were getting their insight and input as far as how they were looking at events a little bit differently than maybe perhaps some of the rest of us that haven't planned events in the past. But it is good to actually have people who have that knowledge to give their input and insight, because I think Michelle actually served on the event grants task force, but the rest of them have to serve as being anonymous. But it was very, very helpful on having that person be on the task force.
I have a quick question. Why can't we put out applications at the beginning of every year or whenever and just put subject to funding by the city? I don't understand why an application can't go out like right now.
Michelle?
What happens if we get 0 funding and you have all these people applying for something and there's no money?
You just say we didn't get the money. It's subject to receiving funds. I mean, it's pretty simple.
A disclaimer. I mean,
We're not promising people money anyway. So there's no reason why that couldn't be done. We could have had a stack of them right now, the committee already meeting, and actually gone to the city and say, these are the events we want to have. It'd be good for the city to be able to have their planning, go to them and say, oh, you know what? This is the amount of money we want to have for events. These are the events we want to have. This is the money we want. This is what we're going to contribute towards that. We need you to fund X. I mean, it's like the cart before the horse. I don't understand.
And Jane, in an ideal world, that would have been a perfect situation. But looking at this fiscal year, when I guess as far as like timeline, when would you have foreseen that to happen?
we didn't even know what was going on with the Bureau. We didn't even know that we were under city until.
Well, I'm talking about TBID, not Bureau.
Right, but we were a bureau originally. I mean,
no, I understand that it should have been done
next year. Maybe that's something we can do. But you guys, I mean, look at all the transition we went through for the last 6 months. We didn't know where we were doing. We were waiting on decisions from city up until, for all we knew, we were going to disband as a hotel.
I appreciate
that. We may not
that.
be sitting here. So
I appreciate that, but we don't live for the what ifs. We're saying, okay. Here, this is what our events are, and this is what our proposed budget is for 2016, 2017, and therefore we need this amount in grants, this amount we're going to contribute. We give that to the city for next year, and the city will approve our budget or not. That's the process we take. Therefore, we can put out the applications and put a disclaimer subject to getting that funding from the city.
And that can happen in the future,
year,
Jane.
yeah.
It just right now
We gotta deal with
have
what's
to we have
in
to
front
deal
of
with
us now.
actually what's in front of us right now.
So for next year, we could probably open them up in January, and we could put subject to availability. What's going on before us, which we're getting way off topic. What's before us right now is we have to deal with this current fiscal year. We have to deal with this current fiscal, what we're going to do for this year, because we're already in June. So we're here. We've 6 months. We can't go back and change time. We have to deal with what's in front of us now, which is these are our applications. We need to either approve them and move forward so we can have funding and get this process going. Next year, that's a great suggestion. So when you're chair, you can move that forward.
I'd just like to make one point is that in the draft documents, we need to correct June of 17. That's all. The point here today is to review and approve these applications, and so that we can get them out, so we can get moving and get off the dime. Are we looking for a motion to approve the draft applications?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the draft applications as written with the correction of the date.
A second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
The only thing I'd like to add in there is a disclaimer. Just put the disclaimer, subject to, having the funds or how.
That is actually in all of the applications, but we do need to add, Charlie, so we do need to add on the applications specific to the events, if they've received funds in the past and how was the money used in the past. So we do want to add that. Jane had requested that.
I'd like to amend my motion then.
I have a question off of your comment. So if in the past, but you said that they have filed reports in the past, correct?
Most of the events have actually come back and reported in the past.
I think that it's key to future grants that if they don't provide the report, that they're not going to get a grant in the future.
I think
Follow
that
the
it
rules.
even has said that.
Yeah.
And it still doesn't happen. I was going to say, I believe that the application has said that if they don't provide a report, they could be subject to not getting funding in the future. So that's, I think, already in there. Right, there's a time limit on there, yeah. Every year we relook at these, so. Okay, so we have a motion on the table with a second. Did we get the friendly amendment to add those two items? So I need a friendly amendment to add.
I'd like to amend my motion to add
We were adding the
disclaimer and adding if they had funding from
Yep.
in the past.
Yes. Yes, which would be in the report. Yes. Okay. Did my seconder?
I will second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, we've hammered this down. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any approved? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. We got through that. That was brutal. Okay. And just on the events, which I don't want to open up a new subject, but I think one thing Taylor's going at is a bigger, broader picture about an event coordinator. And I know we've talked about this a lot, and Taylor and I have battled because I'm always like, the hotelier shouldn't be paying for an event coordinator. We're not an events board. So we talk about this a lot. But I do think it's something that should be discussed maybe at a future event. We've got Jennifer coming in. I think events are big to the city. They're big to tourism. So I do think that's something for a future agenda item that does need to be discussed because I didn't want us to get us off topic with the applications, but I do think there's some validity in a discussion on it for a future date. So we'll throw that on future agenda items, which is... We do all benefit from it. I just don't want to see us be an events board, is my thing. That's my thing. So I think there's two different things. I believe in a coordinator. I just don't want to see us become an events board. I don't want to be we're not an events promotion companies type thing. So that's where I'm at. So, okay, so we got through that. So we're on declaration of future items, which is why I brought that up. I think that needs to be something that's discussed. The other thing for declaration of future items is the AMGEN County report. If we can make sure that we get the AMGEN County report, follow up from them. And then... does anybody else have any future agenda items? I'll go to my left because I see Taylor going there. Okay, hang on. We're going to go to Taylor first.
On the AMGEN county report, I would love to be able to, if we're going to do this in the future, I'd like to have the reports from the last few years from other, like, how did Cambria do? How did Pismo do? Because Pismo did just start last year. How did Avila do? All that stuff is valuable, I'm sure you have it.
I'm not positive, Taylor, if they have reports. I believe Pismo would probably be the one that they've been at both a start and a finish. And so my guess is that they would actually have some reports that they would be able to share. I'm not positive as far as like Cambria. And the ownership of the event has actually changed. So, and that actually happened for this specific event that we had here this year.
I'd like to say that putting together a small task force to review at each city level, like you had said, would be great. Working with the county in unincorporated areas and working with the cities, I think that we could come up with a group of knowledgeable people that have had the good, the bad, and the ugly of this event. I worked with Guy Savage at the county, and he's amazing. We did make a report, and we do have, I still have my binder on the finish, and so I'd be happy to get a hold of Guy and Gordon and John Sorgenfry and be part of that review, county-wide review of AMGEN and what it does and what it doesn't do for us. So,
I think that's a great future item and I think it's a county thing. I think it's a great point because why are we reinventing the wheel? Okay, so since I went from the left and went to the guys first, Taylor, any future agenda items besides that you'd like to?
Yeah, I would love to talk about city beautification, and how that relates to tourism. I don't really know how to put that down, but I'd love to get a report or like a discussion going at some point about lighting city trees and how tourism and the entrance of Morro Bay and the beautification of our parks and all that stuff relays into the Tourism Bureau or TBID. But again, I don't know how to propose that as an agenda item.
Okay. Paul, any future agenda items?
I think I just want to say I agree with Taylor, and the waterfront is really, to me, the economic engine. And I look at the waterfront, and I'm not sure what TBID can do, but I look at like Disneyland. They're cleaning things up all the time, making that waterfront as clean and nice. I mean, I don't know what we can do, but I just think we could also improve. That's it. A lot. I really do, and I think it's so important. I was at the town hall meeting to connect the Centennial Stairway with the waterfront. And that's a huge thing. And I think we as a board need to look at those things and have comments and discussions on those things. I think it's real important. So, thank you,
Charlie.
I'd just like to make sure that everybody knows that the Outdoor Writers Conference is coming. We are pretty excited about getting this group of writers to be in Morro Bay to write about us. And so Brent and I have been working on this. We're pretty excited about getting this group here and really seeing the outcome of what we can get pretty quickly out of this group. They've been in the county before, and the power that they have almost immediately is pretty incredible. So we're very excited about hosting the Writers Conference.
Great. So we'll see that in a future because they're not coming right away. Yeah, we're talking several months, but
as we talked about getting
we're on declaration of future agenda items. Yeah, I know. We got a little off track, but that's okay.
And one of the reasons I bring it up, Jane, is because these are the things that we need to be talking about, these future events, and being ahead of the game rather than behind the eight ball.
Jane, any future agenda items?
Yeah, I'd like to have a report on Cows on Parade because we did fund $3,000 for that. Also, are we doing something with the museum? Did we fund anything with the Maritime Museum?
Maritime, huge.
We did?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want a report on that. And so we need to know what's going on, the marketing that's going on with that, and both of those, because these are future things that, especially Cows on Parade, the county is working with. There are already events set up out of Morro Bay, but that's why we need to know what's going on.
Maggie, anything you'd like to?
Not at this time.
Okay. So I think that's covered some future agenda items. We'll look through that. Jennifer's got something over there.
Can I add one to the agenda for next time? I would like to discuss opportunity to put visitor kiosks in town.
Okay.
That might go towards beautification as well, so it might be a good tie-in. Okay.
Yep, perfect. So we can get that added on there for a future discussion item. And I think that's it. Thank everybody for their time today, and welcome to the new members. And we'll see everybody in July. Just a reminder, the Bureau's going to be no more. Next time will be a Business Improvement District meeting. There will be no more Bureau meetings. Hoteliers that are out there watching, look for the information that we already approved for Brent to move forward with on getting you information on that. Sad to say, though, last Bureau meeting earlier. So bye-bye nonprofit. Welcome, city.